Okay, good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome everyone who's here tonight. My name is Bruce Craig, and I'm the Chair for Concerned Citizens of Payne Township, putting on this meeting. And we're grateful to see all of you come tonight and just participate. I have a number of things that I want to share, and so just kind of bear with me that some of them are just sort of little information items and a little bit of description of tonight, and then I will be introducing you to the moderator and we'll proceed with the meeting. But welcome to our candidates. We have Locke, Payne and Debbie Schaefer, who are both candidates in Ward 5. We also have Jordan Cescolini and Cleve Mortelliti and Kelly Colasanti in Ward 1. We also have some education school trustee candidates who are here tonight, and just to recognize them, they're going to be available at the close of the meeting to be able to answer questions and to meet with you. We have Bob Roberts. Bob, if you just wave, Bob's at the back there. We have Ken Turek. Bob and Ken are running for the English Public Board, and with the English Catholic Board, we have Elizabeth Crow, who's here, and Laura Ronco. And also with the French Catholic Board, has Maxine arrived? And Maxine's at the back there, okay? So they'll be available at the close of the meeting, and we hope to have a good time for conversation and questions then. I want to begin with something that's become more traditional to say, and I like the idea of this very much, but we would like to begin by acknowledging the land in which we gather is the traditional territory of the First Nations. The Huron-Wendat, the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Métis, and the Mississaugas of the New Credit First Nation. We offer our gratitude and deep respect to the First Nations for their care of the land and the water, and for their teachings and example of being good stewards of the earth. Now, I'm wondering if we have any, I'd like to also recognize any of the dignitaries who may be here. Do we have any people linked with the provincial government or with federal government? Okay, we probably all have connections in some ways. So anyway, let me go on. I also would like to just quickly introduce part of the team that I'm very grateful for putting this on. One is Greg Locke, who I'm going to be introducing later as moderator. Jill Watt and Judith Tenenbaum, who were greeting you as you came in. All very active with Concerned Citizens. And also, Fred Jessup, I believe you're here. There, okay. And I don't know if Leanne Kraft has arrived, but okay, yeah. Anyway, busy lives. Now, let me just go on. I also would like to recognize Villanova College for welcoming CCKT to use this wonderful library facility in the school. We've been here several times, and it's been a real joy to be able to work with Villanova. Now, on your seats, you'll have received a couple of items that come from Concerned Citizens. One will be an envelope, which will sort of a little self-explanatory. It's basically a donation envelope. It's voluntary, and there is considerable cost when we put on an event like this. We're finding it's even becoming more expensive than it once was, but we have a facility use fee, insurance coverage, media advertising, plus printing and mailing costs. And each of the two meetings that we're doing is about $700 per meeting. So just to sort of appreciate anyway, we welcome just gratefully any donations that you're able to make. Jill, there's a basket, I believe, at the back there where envelopes will be placed. Also on your seat, you'll have a sheet of paper here. They're basically the two questions that were prepared by Concerned Citizens for the candidates to answer. The candidates received them about 5 to 6 days ago and have time to prepare their answers. Greg will explain that more as moderator, but we thought it'd be good for you to see the wording of those questions. At the very bottom of the sheet, here's something that I'd like you to have a look at, which it's what we call the CCKT candidate questionnaire. This has been a real first as an organization to do a candidate questionnaire, and it's actually been very rewarding. We sent this questionnaire out, I guess it'd be about 4 weeks ago. Yeah, I'd say about 4 weeks ago, and all the candidates had an option to answer 14 different questions. It was quite ambitious, actually. And we were really glad to receive responses from 11 of the candidates. If you are interested in we encourage you to go online and view the responses. They're all organized by wards, so you can sort of see how the different candidates in each ward, how they feel about different issues and questions. So just encourage you to have a look at that. It's and you'll see the website addresses there, and it'll be easy to link into. Now, a couple of just little information matters. If you have a cell phone or pager, if you could please turn off the sound during the meeting so we can minimize interruptions. Also, we would ask that during the meeting, just to refrain from taking photos during the meeting, or at least with flashes, let's say that. If we want our candidates to be able to concentrate well. Let's see. And following the meeting, there'll be an opportunity to meet with candidates. Washrooms are located through the doors, just in the hallway. I think you'll find those. And to the best of my knowledge, I think there's some water fountains there. Henry, I think? Yeah, so the water fountains there too, if anybody's thirsty. I also was just going to say that one of the things that CCKT is sort of leading into tonight's meeting. We're often sort of an advocacy citizens group, often there for smart planning, protecting the environment, getting the citizen voice out. And one of the really important things to us is to engage citizens in the process that we're so blessed to have in Canada, the freedom to choose our representatives. So this is a really important part of what we do, and we're just grateful for the candidates and for all of you who have come. I was going to, my background's in teaching, so I couldn't resist just sharing a couple of little thoughts on 3 words, which are just great reminders for all of us. And they are, I'm just going to say, integrity, respect, and kindness. It's something that and King really shows a lot of this in many, many ways, which is wonderful. So I just think of integrity that I challenge all of us, candidates, guests, and so on, just to be genuine in who we are and what we say. Also, respect, I think, goes without saying. It's something that characterizes so much a King, and meetings have gone well that way. And kindness. There's always room for a bit of kindness, as we all know. Now, I'm just going to introduce our moderator for tonight. His name is Greg Locke. He'll be familiar to many of you. Greg's been very active with CCKT over the past 8 years, spending many of those years actually in the position I'm in now as chair. And we've appreciated his leadership very much in that role. He's also been active in Art Society King. Greg's also known for being a candidate in the recent provincial election in June and as a candidate in 2 past municipal elections. Of interest, Greg's a creative glass artist. You should see some of his work. Fascinating creative. He's also, and he can probably describe this better than me, but he has more recently been an instructor with Seneca College with master's students in the area of marketing and media. So quite fascinating, the different hats he wears. Greg lives with his wife and daughter in the village of Schomberg, and Greg, welcome, and thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Bruce. Everybody can hear me okay, right? Yeah. Fantastic. Not going to waste too much time here. It's a fairly structured evening, but welcome to you all. And I want you to know that we've done these events over several years now, many years actually. Slowly they get refined every time, and we're even refining it slowly even more. But I want you to know that the whole point of the way we structure this meeting is for your benefit. And that's so that you're able to get the information on your candidate or your ward. We know that most people have a general interest in a ward, and there's no doubt about that, or a candidate. So we're going to structure it so that when you're hearing answers, you will hear answers from all of the candidates in one ward and then the candidates in another ward. But that said, I want to remind you of something, is that even though we're on a ward system, all elected councillors vote on all township motions. So that even though there may be an issue or a councillor in your area that you may be able to feel like you can pick up the phone and call, that's not the person making all of the decisions. All councillors make all decisions. So it is in your interest to get to know and understand all of the issues across the township and to impress upon other candidates, not even in your ward, what issues are in your area, because they are in a position where they'll be voting on you eventually. So keep that in mind, okay? We have 2 wards up tonight. We have wards 1 and 5, which, as you know, are generally our King City wards. We are going to have just a few sections of the evening. First of all, each candidate is going to be given an opportunity to give a basic introduction, 2 minutes maximum. And we're going to go basically from the far side of the table to the left side of the table to the right side of the table. They have 2 minutes maximum for that. At the end of the meeting, they will have a closing statement that will be up to 1 minute in length, and we're going to go in the opposite direction, okay, just to be fair. Now, we have asked the candidates to prepare answers for 2 questions that we gave them about a week ago. And we've given you a copy of what those questions are, because they're fairly lengthy. There's a bit of a preamble to each question. And we know that it's going to take, probably a half an hour or so before we get through any one question. And you might kind of forget what the question was. You might want to clarify what the question was. You might want to just formulate a question in the question and answer session that you can participate on, and that might be based on that. And we know that you might like to see what exactly the question was before the candidate. So that's why you have that there. And for the question and audience section for the audience, which I'm going to try to make as long as possible, because that's I know that's of value to you, we have a microphone here that you can race up to at the right time, get in line, and I would ask you that unless we exhaust questioners, just ask one question. Don't immediately get back in the line if you don't mind and stand in line again. Sit down. If it looks like there's going to be no more questions, you can get back in line again. I also have one prepared question from a member of the audience that I will read out loud as well. So I may take an opportunity just to do that. Okay. And by the way, you will have up to 30 seconds per question. So we want you to be fairly succinct. And please, I'm looking for questions. I know that sometimes you may want to give a 1 or 2 sentence preamble to a question. I know that to make context. Really try to make that minimum. If I see that you're rambling on and really making more of a statement, I will ask you to stop, and please remember that I am directing the evening, not only for you, but for the candidates as well. So if I say, please stop, please make a question, I would please ask that you respect that, because we want to make sure that we can get as many questions asked as possible. And that's to your benefit, I believe, okay? And like I said, at the end of the evening, there'll be closing comments, 1.5 minutes per candidate. And then I will make just a few short closing comments. Bruce will make a few short closing comments. And then we're also hoping to have a good, hopefully up to a half an hour, where you can mingle, you can talk to the candidates. You can also talk to our school trustee candidates who are in attendance here as well. And we will wrap up by 9:30, because that's when they shut off the lights. I'm pretty strict about that, okay? So with that in mind, I do have one question I didn't get to ask. Who is our timer? You're our timer, great. So you're going to start the timer, you're going to let the candidates know when they are at 1 minute and 45 seconds, and then 15 seconds later, will you have another little ding, or? Okay, fantastic. Okay, so we're going to get going with that. All right, so to begin, we will start at the far end of the table. Ms. Kelly Colasanti, you may stand, you may sit. Please use the microphone, and like I said, you will have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I'll sit. If it's okay, everyone can see.
Stand up.
I have no problems.
Hello, Jack. I got really hold this close.
I think they want you to stand.
Want me to stand?
Let's go. Either way. I sit all day. My name is Kelly Colasanti, and first off, I want to thank the CCKT, as well as Villanova, and all of you for attending tonight, and thank you for this opportunity to speak to everyone. I've worked for 37 years for a large broadcast company, and I was vice president of operations and engineering for those years. What I did is throughout those years, I managed a whole bunch of people. I managed multi-million-dollar budgets, construction, both from technical operations as well as brick and mortar construction as well. So I retired about 5 years ago, moved up to King City about the same time, well, just before I retired. And you know, living in King City, I saw a lot of things that was happening that I thought I could help, and I want to do is propose to help grow this community, because there's a lot of challenges we're going to face in the next coming years if we're not already facing a few of them already. So I've had 5 years of exposure to this. I see it growing. I do have the expertise. I do have the time. As I mentioned, I'm retired. I will do this as probably a full-time position as opposed to a part-time position. I don't have another career at this point in time, so I'm trying to make this my full-time career. And I want the opportunity to address a lot of the issues that I see anyway, and I hope the people that I did, the residents that I did meet with, also voiced their opinion about the same issues as well. I mean, these are things like infrastructure that's in place here, affordable housing that's going on here as well. I mean, the traffic congestion that we're all getting on King Street. You know, there's a whole number of things that are just going on that we have to address. So, sorry, is that a 2 minute?
15
Oh, so I welcome the opportunity. I do have the expertise, and I do want to voice your opinions and be your voice of counsel and help you as many ways as can. As I said, I will do this full time, and I will meet with candidates and residents of the community to ensure that we all are aware of what's going on and we agree. So, thank you.
Great. Thank you, guys. Cleve Mortelliti.
Thank you, Greg. I've got a written speech. I covered 12 years on this. Good evening, everyone, and thanks to CCKT for their continued volunteer service in promoting these all-candidates meetings. My name is Cleve Mortelliti, and I'm offering my 12 years of experience combined with more than 30 years of civil engineering and land use planning experience as a choice as Ward 1 councillor. Here's a bit of information about me. I grew up in King City. My wife and I have raised our family here. I'm honored to have served as your councillor since 2006. I understand the complex issues that we are facing in Canada. I'm deeply committed to my family, my friends, and to this community. In my 3 terms in office, we have constructed the King City Skate Park and Ball Hockey Court, revitalized Memorial Park's baseball diamonds and added a new splash park, children's playground, and a brand new gazebo. We have beautified the 4 corners at King and Keel, built new sidewalks from Station Road to Elizabeth Grove where there were none before. Same with Denison to Carmichael, there were no sidewalks there before. And we've replaced old sidewalks on Keel Street from King Road to Station Road. And next year we will be doing it from the new municipal office all the way out to the new library. And yesterday we also approved the ground lease for our new recreation complex to be constructed beside Seneca, and together with that we approved the hiring of the architect who will begin the design of our new township-wide recreation complex at Dufferin and 15. Our new modern library is under construction on King Road, and we've created a nice synergy by co-locating the library with the new senior center. And in my time on council, we have built a successful and sustainable event known as the King City Craft Beer and Food Truck Festival. This past summer, Money Sense magazine reported that King is the best place to live in York Region and among the top 20 places in all of Canada. I'm running for re-election because I would like to continue this positive trajectory. This evening, I look forward to answering your questions, but before I do, I have one for you. If you're going to hire a lawyer to represent you, if you're going to hire an engineer to build your bridge, if you were going to hire an architect to build your dream home, would your first choice be to hire someone with no experience? On October 22nd, re-elect Cleve Mortelliti because experience matters.
Okay, Jordan Cescolini. Oh, Cescolini, sorry.
No worries. Hello, my name is Jordan Alexander Cescolini. Before I talk a bit about myself, I'd like to thank CCKT for hosting us, for Villanova for offering their facilities. I would like to thank Bruce Craig for reaching out to all the candidates and organizing this. I'd like to thank our moderator, Greg Locke, for keeping us all in order up here. And I'd just like to thank all of you who took the time to share your concerns with us. Moving forward, I am a proud lifelong resident of King Township. I'm also a proud graduate of the University of Western Ontario with a degree in finance. And my vision for King Township is a simple one. My vision includes not paying the highest property taxes in the GTA at $12,132 a home. My vision is that we don't have a water bill that is head over heels higher than municipalities due to costly previous mistakes that we are trying to now cover up for. My vision is that we cope with the congestion that is coming in and the congestion that will continue to come in. We need to invest more in our road infrastructure, plain and simple. The only promise I can make you, I cannot make you a promise of experience, but I can make you this promise. I will make the tough decisions. Politics is not about making the choice that is right and popular. It is sometimes making the difficult choices. And if elected, the budget that I will bring forward will be reflective for our future generations, for our roads, for our environment. Thank you very much.
Okay, Sasha Mozaffari doesn't seem to be here, and we haven't been given a warning that she wasn't. So if she shows up, I guess we'll do our best to fit her in. But at the time being, I'm going to pass it over to Debbie Schaefer.
Thank you, Greg. Is this close enough? Can you hear me? Yeah, okay, good. I am Debbie Schaefer. I am the current counselor in Ward 5. And like the others, I too want to start with thanking CCKT for hosting this event and for all of you coming, because it really is important to hear from all the candidates. I was first elected in 2010. I am running to be re-elected as I believe that I have delivered value to my constituents in Ward 5 and to the township overall. I very much want to continue doing this. I'm particularly interested to do so because I see that King overall and King City is at a very exciting point in its evolution. In King City, we are now starting to see the benefits and the opportunities that come with growth. For example, we have now started construction of our new modern library, which will be co-located with an expanded senior center. We have started planning for the new recreational center at the 15th and Dufferin. And very importantly, those facilities, along with other activities, are being done with a very strong sense of respect for the taxpayers. So for example, we are targeting that the new recreational center will be 80% not funded by taxpayers. 80% will come from development charges. We have also already installed new sidewalks and beautified the arterial roads in King, on Peel, and on Peel, and starting next year we will do so also on King Road. I want to be at the council table to ensure that this momentum continues. There are some very big challenges ahead, particularly on the kind of housing that is being built here. We need to start getting diverse housing options. So I want to be at the table to work on these very difficult decisions and to make those tough choices. Thank you.
Sasha, why don't you come in and sit down just quickly? You can continue your intro, and maybe you can just sort of get yourself together, Sasha, and we'll give you your introduction.
We're not taking attendance, Sasha, so
There you
it's
go.
okay. Hi, my name is Rob Payne. It's an honor to be here. Thank you again to the concerned citizens of King Township. I'm not sure if this mic is working, so I'll speak up louder. I'd like to thank my wife, Susie, my two boys, Jack and Nicholas, for their support during this campaign. Over the last few weeks, I've been doing a lot of listening, and I've been listening to the residents of Ward 5. And I want to play back what they've been telling me. They're concerned about speeding and traffic. Speeding and traffic on our regional roads, speeding and traffic in our neighborhoods. They're concerned about controlled and sustainable development. They're concerned about property taxes, and in particular, given the reassessment changes that we've gone through. It's apropos that we're here this evening on the 15th Side Road as well. I am unequivocally opposed to the expansion and the extension of the 15th Side Road through King's Cross, through environmentally sensitive areas to the 400. If I'm fortunate enough to have your confidence, I will work on your behalf on these issues and many other issues. On October 22nd, I ask for your support. Thank you.
If you feel free to speak up, but please try to stay behind the table. We're going to have everybody come out in front. We're just trying to keep a level playing field, okay? But it's a nice suit. Sasha, sorry you're late. Welcome.
Thank you. Hi, everyone.
You're welcome to stand. Recommend you stand, but you're welcome to sit as well. But you have 2 minutes to do your introductory speech. Okay.
So there's big challenges in fresh thinking. I believe in the power of local government to solve problems and to make things better. As a citizen of Ward 5, I know that our local libraries, schools, parks, places of worship, and community centers are important elements that build King City's character. However, great communities do not occur overnight, nor do they stop improving. They take effort and dedication to flourish. That's why with your vote, I want to be your Ward 5 counselor. With experience in volunteer involvement from previous cities, I have lived in, and my honors BA in political science, I believe I have something new to bring to King City, an educated perspective, and on new opportunities and solutions that can be inaugurated into the city. That being said, my main concern is bettering and maintaining the community for you. That's the reason I would like to represent you in local council. It's the same reason that I am a student of law. I would like to take your problems and create solutions, to take a problem that you have on a day-to-day basis to see that so that you can continue living in the city to the fullest. Meanwhile, I take care of the stress and trouble that you have and find a solution for that. From gridlock to city services, public infrastructure, and maintenance, Ward 5 is facing big challenges that only fresh thinking can resolve. So please reach out to me and let me know and hear about things you have to say about King City, the concerns and questions that you have. I am ready to better Ward 5, and that can only be done with your support. Thank you.
All right, well done, all of you. We're going to get into our second phase of the evening, which is our 2 prepared questions. We have the first question I am going to read out aloud. On the yellow pages, you also have a copy of the question if you want to read along or refer to later. I think what I'll do this time again, I will start once again at the far end of the table, and when we get to the second question, I'll start at this end with Mr. Payne, and we'll just move back. I think that'll make it so that all of the questions are answered by ward, and that each candidate who is not an incumbent gets to be first or last once. How's that for making things a little complicated? All right, I'm going to read the first question to you. And this is with regard to planning and new housing options. And by the way, remember that we distributed these questions to the candidates about a week ago. So they had a week to prepare them. There was nothing secret. It's all above board because we're interested in their thoughtful answers as opposed to thinking on their feet, which is what they're going to do when you get it and ask them questions later. So here we go. Who should take the lead on directing the planning and makeup of new subdivisions and other development project proposals? King Township or the developer? King's City's new housing stock over the past 10 years is almost all exclusively large, single detached homes, considered high-end and expensive. There are clearly broader social needs for alternative housing options not being met and opportunities to build much more sustainable, eco-friendly homes. What is your vision for future housing in King City, Hamilton, and Schaumburg, and how will you work with council and staff to implement this vision? That's the question. So Kelly Colasanti, you are welcome to begin your 2-minute response.
Thank you. Well, first let me start. I think obviously I believe that the King Township should take ownership of any developments and work with the developers as well. So this is King Township. It's our home, and we should make sure that everything is sustainable and suitable for our communities. Yeah, so I totally agree that King Township should take it on. The vision for housing. I mean, look, this affordable housing is a big issue. Housing in King is very expensive. The affordable housing at one time was, I guess, the townhouses, which are now very, very expensive. And I propose that there's a developer in Ottawa area that's an eco-builder. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but they're building very eco-friendly Code Plus homes. And what that means is they're bringing in new technologies like solar panels and everything else. So there's a lot of things that are coming into play here that are going to be suitable for our community. But it's developing it that meets the needs of our community as well as and sustainable. And it's got to fit. It's got to be something that our community addresses and accepts into our community. It's not something we're just going to plop anywhere with a poorly designed area. So it's getting it in there. It's also building the infrastructure. I believe in infrastructure before you start doing any development, because we're going to start building on Dufferin Street or anywhere else with new homes. Dufferin is already congested, so we gotta do infrastructure as well. So again, it's meeting the community, understanding the community, what the needs are, and fulfilling that with working with the township, with the staff members as well. So it's getting them to understand as well, so, and it's getting affordable housing that is suitable for our kids, our grandkids, and so on and so forth. So thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Cleve?
Okay, so this is a very complex question, so I'm going to do my best to answer this one. So to answer your question, our professional staff are tasked with leading and guiding these issues and writing the actual professional recommendations. Additionally, our official plans and community plans inform and guide our staff's recommendations. In other words, we must comply with the law and its inherent procedures. Neither council nor the public can provide expert witness at an appeal board like the OMB or the LPAC, and that is why staff must lead this. Having said that, however, there is room for negotiation, and this is where your councillor must engage in order to make developments meet with community needs. And we do this with every development application. But public feedback over the past 10 years has been to reduce density, not to increase it. If higher density developments are what the public now wants, then that is an easier negotiation than lower density developments, because higher density developments yield more profit for developers. It's what they want. But I'd like to hear from this room. How many want to see higher density developments in King City? And having said that, current provincial legislation supports higher density development, meaning that even if some don't want it, the law is on the side of the developers. As for sustainable, eco-friendly homes, municipalities can only enforce the law. And right now, the law with respect to home building is manifested in the Ontario Building Code, which enforces only minimum standards. So anything over and above what the builder is compelled to build and wants to build becomes a negotiation. And eco-friendly homes often cost more to build, and quite often purchasers don't want to pay the premium. So a reasonable approach might be to ask the builder to offer these features as an upgrade. We can only force a builder to build these types of developments. If the law changes, then we can force them to follow the law. Now, in terms of getting more development of this kind within King City, over the last several years, there's been a request for that, because I've seen a lot of my older friends have to leave town because they don't have this sort of option. So there's two things. Whether we like it or not, it's coming. So what we have to do is engage the developers and make these developments fit within our community in their proper location.
There we go. Thank you. All right, Jordan Cescolini.
So, according to the official plan in King Township, we are growing to 35,000 people in the next 10 to 15 years, so that does mean new development. Oh, okay, no, I didn't know, okay. So that does mean new development is going to come. We need to have a fruitful relationship with developers and the township. I believe in the free market, and I believe that's what's going to dictate what we will get. I do, however, believe that developers have left King Township a bit high and dry when it comes to road infrastructure. As Debbie pointed out, 80% of the new rec center will be paid with development charges, and that's great. However, we talk about affordable housing, meanwhile we're putting tens of thousands of dollars on new homes being built. You can't have your cake and eat it too. I want to make sure that developers are responsible for paying into the system, as well as helping widen the infrastructure as it goes. One big concern for myself is for our seniors. There is no places to downsize. I would like to try and push to see if we can have smaller bungalows, no steps going into the homes, and maybe add in some friendly features. That does come with a cost. Developers, they are in it for the money, and as you know, the market will dictate it. Another thing I do want to talk about in terms of environmentally friendly, we do have LED bulbs, energy efficient appliances, and insulated doors and windows. One thing I'd like to bring forward, which I think is the future, is making sure that every new home built does come with wired charging in the garage for electric vehicles. I know they're still a couple years out, but let's lead the charge. Let's be in the forefront. Again, we have to remember every regulation we put increases the price of homes, so we can't have our cake and eat it too, but we can definitely control what happens here in our township. Thank you.
By the way, the comment from Rob was he seems to be having a bit of a problem with the volume on his microphone, the one he shares with Debbie. I don't know if there's anyone here who can do anything about that, but if there is, that was what we were wondering about, okay? If not, maybe what you could do, Rob or Debbie, to borrow Sasha's mic, if that seems to be a problem. Maybe we can work that out at some point, okay? Thank you. So, Sasha, you are up.
So, in the next discussion, I believe that I believe that the King Township and developers should be working together, since King Township does have the development plans and has studied the city and know what's going on. I think that we need to understand real estate conditions and marketing conditions in regard to this, and fully understand what is wanted by age groups all around King City. I think that it should be members of council, community, and the development stakeholders to determine what type of housing that we're looking at, and that smaller landowners should be able to subdivide their land as well and create more houses on their land. That way there's less of a disturbance with the current city, but also individuals can create more land, more housing that way as well. And in terms of environment, I believe that there should be more studies done and what people want in the city and in terms of smart housing. And that includes, as Ward 1 said, the rechargeable electronic plugs and trying to bring in the vehicles and et cetera. Thank you.
I just got word that just hold the mic closer to your mouth. I guess they're not that sensitive. You just hold it closer.
Okay.
I think the more
Okay, I'll try on that. Thank you. This is a very complex question. I too am going to work from my notes to try to cover what I wanted to say. It's council's job to manage growth thoughtfully and to get residents engaged. Council leads with the tremendous professional support of the planning department. And there are other important players that influence the outcome. York Region is a planning authority which mandates the growth. Where we grow is restricted by provincial legislation, such as the Oak Ridges Moraine. It's a council job to get the community involved to determine how the growth looks on the ground. When council makes a decision on a development application, the applicant can appeal if they are not satisfied. Under the former OMB, outcomes from appeals often favor the developer. With the new LPAT, control of planning is returned to the township. We have control of planning through our official plans and zoning bylaws. It is here that the types of housing, density, height of buildings is defined. Our official plan is currently under review. It requires public input. This is your chance to shape your future community. As to the question about my vision for King City, I first of all want to say, I think King City is a country village growing into a town, and it is painful to do so. There's the angst created by the change itself. There is the physical mess and noise of the construction. My vision is to keep the best part of the village and expand on what's missing. We're now starting finally to fill in the gaps. A large grocery store last term came on track. We are expanding the library. We're going to create, and we are creating, recreational amenities. To date, we have not made progress on one critical gap: different types of housing units. Not everyone wants a single detached home greater than 2,500 square feet or 230 square meters. We need townhouse, semi-detached. We also need to be having houses with eco features built in. Council needs to be working with developers to build that kind of community.
Thank you very much. So I think the first part of the question is to reiterate. So I think it's a combination of both. I think the township has to have a vision. We have to articulate what that vision is, but in the same sense, we have to understand that the developers have a stake as well. As it's been mentioned previously, one example is we don't have architectural controls. Municipalities are creatures of the province. The powers, the decisions we make are based on what the province allows us to do. Therefore, we have to articulate what is our vision, and we have to work collaboratively with the development community to make that vision happen. Secondly, with respect to eco-friendly homes, again, that's market-driven. And my concern is that market-driven forces are really going to dictate what are people willing to spend on their homes. And that's a decision you have to make, not a decision I think government has to make. Lastly, in terms of development, I approve of intensification in the downtown core. With exception to my colleague, I am not in favor of land severances in our established mature neighborhoods like Kings Cross and King Heights. Intensification should happen in the downtown core. That's how we're going to get mixed house using. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the end of question 1. I'm going to move on to question 2, which you might argue is an even more complex question because it has such a big introduction. So I'm going to read it. When we answer, I'm actually going to start with Mr. Payne and we're going to work the other way down. And at the end of that, we will then get into question and answer from the audience. Okay, this is about not so much policy, but about the time commitment and availability of incumbents and councillors to be able to perform for the public as a member of our public service here. Let me read it out to you. Although formerly a part-time position in King Township, over the past 10 years, being a councillor has become increasingly more complex and demanding, requires a significant amount of time and focus. Reading agendas and reports, research, councils and committee meetings, public events, attendance at conferences, meaningful interaction and communication, most importantly, with constituents. Not to mention running for council, but that's a whole separate ballot. That said, this role provides some valuable compensation besides the intrinsic rewards of serving the public. And we state this because many people don't know this. It is a paid position. Approximately $25,000 salary per year, plus health benefits, plus a pension plan, and some allowable expenses. So A, there are 2 parts of the question. A, please briefly describe your present career and or your volunteer obligations and describe how you will make time available for the responsibilities and commitments of the councillor role to ensure that you serve your constituents in King Township well. And the second part is, for all candidates running, list the volunteer organizations or township committees you currently represent and briefly describe your responsibilities. I believe that for all incumbents. That should be list your organizations you're in. On which township committees and in which volunteer activities are you interested in participating should you be elected? Okay, Mr. Payne, you first.
So, yes, to answer the first part of the question, I'm a financial advisor with Edward Jones. So basically, I'm a small business owner. So that allows me the opportunity to have flexibility in terms of my hours. So I believe that's very important in this role. Most of the meetings, commitments are evenings and weekends, but again, as a small business owner, I'm fortunate enough to have flexibility. Thus, I think I'm in a good position to be a candidate and obviously a councillor, which is a part-time role here in Ward 5. The second part of the question was, what particular boards would I be particularly interested in? And there's 2. The library board and the sustainability committee. Those are the 2 particular areas that, again, if I'm fortunate enough to be elected, that I'd like to participate in. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Debbie Schaefer?
So prior to becoming a counselor, I was enjoying retirement and having relative control of my time. But since becoming a counselor, that is clearly no longer the case. I do make my council job the priority. In addition to the time commitment, I would just make a comment that one of the aspects of being a counselor is that it is highly unstructured. Yes, you have council meetings every 2 weeks and you can put that on the calendar for the next 12 months. But in between, there are a lot of meetings that come up. I'll look at my calendar and think, oh, I can go off for a week because it's open. And then meetings come up, and then of course there are always constituent issues that come up and people ask for my help. So my track record's there that I do put the time against it. As far as the committees that I'm currently on, I'm the council representative on 2 of the advisory committees, the Heritage Advisory Committee and the Sustainability Advisory Committee. I'm gratified with what both of those committees have accomplished, and personally, I have met a lot of new people, of course, and I have learned a lot. As far as outside work or committees and groups, I am a founding director of King for Refugees, and as we are a relatively new organization, I have been involved with a number of governance issues. writing a constitution, developing policies for the interface of the volunteers with the newcomers. In that group, I am a member of the Planning and Administration Committee, which has financial responsibilities.
Thank you, Debbie. Sasha. By the way, can I clarify, is your last name, is it Mozaffari? That's the correct pronunciation. Excellent. I got it. I only messed up once tonight. That's good.
So everyone can write?
Just keep it close to your mouth.
Okay.
Keep it close to your mouth.
Okay, so I recently graduated with an undergraduate degree this summer, and I work part-time at a law office. I'm going to law school next year. However, I'm a multitasker, I'm a fast learner, and I pay close attention to all details. You can get that from my lawyer and from people from school. And basically, if I am to be elected, I'd like to split my time 50-50. I'd like to study, but also attend to responsibilities and commitments that a counselor should do. I'd like to be able to be available through email, phone calls. If you go through my website, you can reach me there as well. But I'd like to split it in half because this is a very important position, and I don't take it lightly. Since I have been away for 4 years, I haven't been fully immersed into this. I haven't been engaged in the city as much, and I've been looking into volunteer positions at the very moment. And if I'm not counselor, of course, and if I were, I also was looking to be a part of committees as well, which currently I've been very interested in the sustainability board, and I also would like to attend committee of adjustment if possible. Thank you.
Thanks, Sasha. Okay, once again, Jordan Cescolini.
Thank you very much. So as mentioned in the question, I think the most important kind of reward you get from this job is the intrinsic value of serving your community. And being a lifelong resident, that's something that I've always looked forward to doing. As far as my profession, I am self-employed. I work at a family business called Royal Door that my immigrant grandfather started in 1975 and has passed down from generation to generation, and now it's my turn with my siblings to take it over. I am committed to putting 20 to 25 hours a week aside, which given the flexibility of my job is something I can do. I want to move forward towards volunteerism because I do believe that's important. As I said before, I will not play favorites, I will not play politics. I will not join any committee or board because I believe every voice in itself is important. I don't want to give anyone the misconception that just because they aren't part of an organization or head of an organization that their voice doesn't matter. I will still attend every forum, every meeting, every activity, anything I am invited to participate in, but personally speaking, I will not do that. I will not play politics, so thank you.
Okay, thank you, Greg. So I can confirm that after serving for 12 years that this is definitely a part-time job. The actual work requirements are not much more than a few hours a day on average. Some days and weeks there is no work at all. There are peaks and valleys in the time commitment. You're very busy some weeks and not so busy others. The job is essentially that of a communicator, facilitator, and educator. We don't do the work, staff does the work. We create the legal framework under which staff operate. Council is much like a board of directors. Anytime over and above leads into what I would describe as self-promotion. In my full-time job, I am the Director of Communications and Operation Alignment at R.J. Burnside and Associates. I started in this role in 2016. I am responsible for the management of operational groups such as IT and HR, and I lead both internal and external communications. We are a multidisciplinary engineering firm comprised of civil and structural engineers and environmental scientists, and we service the public and private sectors as well as First Nations, and we also do a lot of international work. My total time commitment between both jobs ranges from 40 to 55 hours per week. Now sometimes it goes above that. Like I said, there's peaks and valleys. My job is very flexible at Burnside. I'm on the senior management team. I can work my own schedule, and it's very easy to weave this job into the job that I do on a daily basis. And I find myself doing both jobs all the time. They kind of blend into each other, and that actually makes it very interesting. I don't get bored of one job or the other. It's like one minute I'm working on an issue trying to help a constituent, and the next minute I'm trying to help one of our staff deal with an IT issue or a human resources issue. And the two jobs blend very well because of the civil engineering and land use planning experience that I have. And I have experience, I used to work at the Township of King, so I'm able to answer questions and get to the root of questions much quicker because quite frankly, I know the job of a lot of our staff.
Thank you, Bruce. Okay, last second question is, Kelly.
I always like going good first, right? Thanks. My current career, I'm retired, so I have all the time in the world. And my family can vouch for me. I come from a background where I work 24/7. It's something that I've always been used to, so I address the issues, I listen to people, I listen to the residents, I'm going to address all the issues that we have coming our way. Being able to do it full-time gives me the time to attend all the meetings and research and do everything that's required in the background to make sure the right decisions are being made. So, these are things that are going to happen. We're facing changes now, and there's challenges that are going to come our way. We see it every single day. So I've got the time. I plan to dedicate it 100%. And I'm a 24/7. I worked in a broadcast industry, and I was available 24/7. So it's nothing new to me. So I plan to inform you, the residents, of what's going on and what's coming up, and make sure that we're making the right decisions on a regular basis. So, those are things that I'm interested in doing as well. Because I'm a resident, and I know what I want, and I know what some of you want, but I want to hear more about what you guys want as well. So, as part of the other half, I think, was the volunteers. I don't have a volunteer, but I'm interested in heritage, and I'm also interested in the library. So, thank you.
Great, thank you, Kelly. Guess what? We're actually a little bit ahead of schedule. So this is fantastic because it gives you more time to ask questions. Because on our agenda, that goes to 8:45. So unless we run out of questions, this is your time. So I would ask you, if you have a question to ask, please line up at the microphone. I would ask you to not ask a question more than 30 seconds long. Like I said, I know that you may need a sentence or two. Keep in mind, this is not an opportunity for you to bash anybody. This isn't an opportunity to be rude. If you are, we'll shut down the meeting until you leave. So just keep that in mind. I don't think that's going to happen. If I hear, most typically what happens is that you get caught up in your own thoughts. You end up giving what's more of a statement than a question. So just remember, I'm looking for a question, and if I remind you to give a question, just stop, get to your question, and then let the candidate answer. Okay? You can direct your question to all candidates or one or more specific candidates. However, the rule that we do enact here is that if any candidate wishes to make up to a 30 or 45-second comment, they can indicate to me that they'd like to do so, and I'll let them do that, okay? And we'll just see how that goes. So, sir, please step up.
So my question is, Mr. Payne, so far in King's Cross, we don't want high-density housing. We don't want easy access to the 400 highway. We're building another 1,000 houses just down 15th. There's going to be 2,000 more cars on the roads. Where are they going to drive?
I think it's a great question. So what I'm proposing is the existing King Vaughan line, which, as you know, is a regional road. It's a paved road. In fact, the province is, as you know, making upgrades to the 400 as we speak. So my proposal to alleviate the traffic concerns, particularly on Hill Street, James Street, and King Road, is the King Vaughan line. Can I do that myself? Absolutely not. I will need support from the rest of council, from the Township of King. We'll need support from the region of York, and we'll need support from the province. But I'm willing to take that task on.
No one wishes to offer a comment? I'm just kind of testing it out. If anybody wants to do one, just put up your hand and say, okay, Jordan?
So we talked about the King Vaughan, and I did butt heads with Rob on this. I support the expansion of 15th to the 400 because King Vaughan fundamentally doesn't work. It's not even in our jurisdiction, and the problem are the people coming from Aurora and Newmarket. If we have an entrance on to the 400 on King Vaughan, they will still be driving through the heart of our community, which doesn't alleviate the traffic on our residential roads, and it doesn't make it any safer for anybody. I understand there are environmental concerns, but I ask you and I beg you to weigh out the concerns of hundreds, if not thousands of cars idling day after day after day for playing politics for one area to not get a road going behind it. Thank you.
Great. I think that's Kelly, you have a comment?
So this is an issue that's been around for 20 years. There was an opportunity to get a bypass in 2000, and council of the day decided to change the environmental assessment process, which eliminated the 15th, and when that happened, the region of York basically canceled the whole thing. In the meantime, the McLeod's Landing development was built between Yonge Street and Bathurst, basically cutting off the corridor from the 404 all the way to the 400. So the only other through way to get would be across the 15th, but that would require to go to the Oak Ridges Moraine. Another thing, though, is that this issue just seems to have to come out of nowhere because it's not really an election issue for this issue, for this election. This is probably 2 to 3 terms down the road because the region of York has pushed the 15th off in the capital program for at least another 10 years. And all the work that you see on the 400, this is the kind of work that happens once in a generation. You are not going to see any bridges at the 15th or the King Vaughan line anytime within our lifetime. So it's moot. It is a moot issue.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Unfortunately, King Vaughan Road doesn't work. You can try and work that all you want, but that just takes you into a subdivision, takes you to Dublin, takes you to Bathurst, doesn't cut you across. We need to do some more studying, and I guess if 15th doesn't work as environmental, the studies that we'll have to address it. But we're definitely facing an issue here where there's traffic, and as our resident Bruce mentioned, is that we're getting 1,000 more houses coming in Dufferin somewhere. We're getting more homes anywhere else. We've got trucks going through. The Alex Campbell folks that live in near the plaza there, they're all complaining because of the noise going through that through King Street is just becoming enormous. So some things we're going to have to address, and we're going to have to address this whether we like it or not. So this is something that's a concern of mine and everybody I spoke to. So thanks.
All right, thank you. Next question, sir.
Hi, I'm George Ockley from downtown Snowball. And so the issues in Snowball are sometimes a little bit different than from King City. Cleve and Debbie, you both raised, and I think some of you others also touched on, the provincial legislative framework in which all planning decisions have to take place. Some of you may have noticed we do have a new provincial government. I actually don't know what the Ford government stance is on places to grow. I can probably intuit a little bit. If you're elected or re-elected, the question is, would you be making positions to the provincial government around issues like densification and intensification?
Who was your question directed to?
Well, I'm in Ward 1, so Cleve could certainly answer it, but others can certainly come in on the issue.
Okay. Let's start with Cleve and we'll see who else wants to weigh in on that.
Okay. Happy to address that question. So the current framework is we have the Oak Ridges Moraine, the Greenbelt, and the places to grow at. Those are the rules of the day. And the rules of the day in terms of snowball would prevent any sort of intensification or any kind of development or servicing of any kind out in the snowball area. All of our development is constrained within the King City Community Plan boundary, which is Dufferin to Jane, 15th down to the King Vaughan line. And then only if the provincial government changes that framework, because we are creatures of the province, could that ever happen. Now, the provincial government to date hasn't said that they're going to change that, but if they do, that could change things dramatically. So right now, I would say snowball is safe from that, but what we are dealing with is places to grow, which does promote intensification inside that box that I described, and that's where the growth can happen. Because the rural areas of King are safe from that for the time being.
Thank you. We're doing pretty good, but I've been in the seat too, and it's really easy to go beyond that. We'll try to keep your answers a little bit tighter, but kind of slack a little bit. I don't want to be in the position where I'm constantly having to cut you off, you know. But anyway, we would like to
Just a quick comment.
Right there.
I just wanted to make sure that I just voiced my opinion. The green belt, I'm all in favor of. I've taken the pledge for it, so it shouldn't be opened up again. So it should remain as it is. So if it does open up, then obviously, that's a different issue that has to be addressed. But I would, look at expanding the green belt because the green belt is very important to us for the beauty of the trails and the beauty and the wet waters. I mean, everything that comes into play with it is very important. So I'm all in favor of that. So I would see snowball growing anymore.
Thank you. Debbie Schaefer, do you have a comment?
What I want to add to the mix is that, yes, as Councillor Mortelliti has said, right now we do have the planning legislation that we need to work under. I think the growth plan as it stands today is extremely valuable to us. It is the only way, by picking out the areas where development can occur, such as below the 15th side road, that is the only way we are going to maintain our green spaces and our agricultural lands. The other thing which is very important to all citizens is the only way municipalities are not going to become drowning in the cost of maintaining the services is if we intensify. We need to be creating our subdivisions with smaller lots so that it does not cost so much on an ongoing basis to manage and maintain all of the pipes that are in the ground.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Payne.
My interpretation is the Places to Grow Act, that's really the primary legislation, as it's been repeated here. I'm fairly confident that the province is still going to be focused in terms of growth on Young Street, where all the services are. And I'm quite confident, based on the forecast projections, that we can accommodate that growth within the urban boundaries that Cleve had mentioned within the King City Secondary Plan. So I'm quite confident that we can meet the objectives of the growth plan while intensifying within the downtown core of the city.
Fantastic. Next question, sir. It would be helpful. I know we didn't ask people. I forgot to instruct, but if it's helpful, or if you're willing to, if you'd be willing to state your name and what community you live in, that would be great.
Dave knows my name very well. How are you working with residents in King, municipality, the ward? What's your view other than swearing in custody? I want a direct answer from your side.
I don't understand the question.
How are you working with the residents and their concerns, other than swearing in custody, which we know very well?
I've never heard swear cuss.
Oh, I'm a witness because I've been sworn in cuss out. Go ahead. How about your stance on it? Working with the residents.
Cleve, you can choose not to answer that. If you don't, we'll just move on to the next question. Or you can voluntarily do it. It's up to you.
Would sound maybe?
I have a record of working with residents that I think are very cordial, and I think there are many people in this room that will know.
I don't know.
Next question.
Very nice.
Sorry, I'm getting close to it.
Hi, I'm Rose from Ward 1, and I have some concerns with the traffic. And we've been called the downtown sector by the King Cross area. The traffic is coming through the side streets, and we've all complained about our high taxes, and we've all complained about the different things. So why does one area get far more local traffic than any other area if we can't even change that? Like, I mean, in comparison, Ward 5 to Ward 1. My question is that I brought 2 years ago at least 6 concerns. Sorry, I'm going to take more time. 6 concerns for Ward 1 concerning the traffic, and all 6 of my concerns for Ward 1 were addressed in absolutely no way. I asked for no left turns on side streets. I asked for the speed limit to be posted and to be considered to be reduced. I asked that there be no left turn out of the church at the corner of Keel and the bottom of our street on Elizabeth Grove. And I've asked that our bylaw take some action also. Absolutely none of these concerns were addressed. Absolutely none. And I was told over and over again, we can't do this and we can't do that, only later to find that we can. We absolutely have the jurisdiction in King City, in the Township of King, to do some of the requests that were put forward by the residents of Elizabeth Grove. So my question is, moving forward, these are still concerns we have. Do the three of you have any solutions for us?
Who wants to go first?
Thank you. I did visit you a couple times. I know the issues very well. The problem is when we decide to play politics with the people. Why is one ward's vote more important than the others? And quite frankly, living on Burden Grove, we've seen the through traffic. Growing up there, I was told you can't play in the front yard because the cars are speeding through. I understand that there's a GO train overflow parking, and they're making left turns directly through Elizabeth Grove to Packet to get to the 400 to go home. The fundamental thing is we have to listen to our constituents, and we have to be willing to make tough decisions. Not everybody on Burden Grove wanted speed bumps, but after the speed bumps did come in, as a personal witness, I can tell you, people stopped speeding through. Unfortunately, that's not the only solution. The only true solution to congestion through our main roads, through our residential roads, is to expand our main roads, to revisit this 15th side road debate, and to truly make sure that cars have a better place to go instead of our side streets.
Thank you. Please.
So I do recall this issue, and it's an ongoing issue, not just on Burke Road, but on Patricia and many other roads that are receiving traffic either from Ontario's from Keel. So as I recall, one of the issues about asking for a no left turn, I know that you didn't like the answer from staff, but sometimes the answers that we give are the correct answers. But
Staff told me it was a regional issue, and I've come to find out that it's not.
No, it wouldn't be a regional issue with Elizabeth Grove, it would be a regional issue on Keel Street. The issue with putting no left turns on Keel Street is that we're prohibiting people who actually live on the road from turning into the road where they live.
7 to 9 in the morning.
Right, and the thing is that when so council cannot make these decisions on their own, they need professional staff to give the recommendations. And I can tell you that across the board, our staff say that we cannot reasonably put something that's enforceable So really the answer is, I understand the concern. The answer is some form of traffic calming, but not everybody likes traffic calming. The reality is...
No, excuse me, one question, one
Six
answer.
suggestions, absolutely none of them was addressed.
Not to say that someone else couldn't have like a follow-up question that would be a little more specific or directing, because I don't want to tie up the whole evening with questions.
Oh, I won't. I promise. I don't see anybody else from Elizabeth Grove.
Okay.
Thank you. I totally agree with you. I've heard these from all the residents I know. I lived it a little bit. I worked with some of the community, there was a proposal. It's probably still in the plans, I'm not sure if you can answer the question. There's still a proposal for a Starbucks, in the corner of Spring Hill and King, which will drive traffic into the community, which will drive more traffic through Lavender, through Warren, and Patricia, and all that. So, these are things that I sort of vote against that, and spoke against that council. Hopefully it doesn't give in and do that, because it just causes more problems in the room, because it's spreading through. But, these are things that would have to be addressed, and I agree with you. Everybody I've talked to, I've got the whole community in the plaza that are dealing with noise, trucks going in there and parking there. I've indicated to them what they should do. I think we can raise it to higher levels. It's the ombudsman. I don't know the levels of that, but we've got to go big, higher levels and fight this all the way through. Because I agree with you, 1,000%. And I'm with you to fight it, so we need to do it.
Thanks, Kelly. Next question. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Debbie. I didn't notice you. Debbie Schaefer would like to make a comment to that question.
The comment I'd like to make is, I have never been on council. I have never heard of the decisions about traffic calming being on different wards. So I really, I take offense to that, saying that we're making decisions about traffic calming or traffic issues based on what ward is complained and what ward is not. And second of all, I mean, there are possibly people from Ward 5 will get up and will review similar frustrations. It really is a very big problem, and what we need to do is ensure that we get up-to-date statistics. We can do tracking and monitoring of the volume and the speed, and then based on what those statistics are, we need to start looking at the options. And indeed, very unfortunately, they often aren't the ones, the answers that we want.
Thank you. Yes, please step up.
Rosalind Nelson, I'm a resident of Ward 5. But this question is for each of you. Have you received donations from developers' personal accounts and or from their families and or associates?
That's a great question. I have made a specific decision not to accept donations from, if I answer your question, from developers, their families, or, sorry?
Associates. Personal accounts of the developers,
and
families.
Everyone at the table has to disclose that at the end of the campaign, and I decided not to accept donations from them.
How about we just run down the line this time, just to make sure that everybody. Thank you.
I'm glad you've asked the question, Roz, because this is something that's very dear to my heart. I lobbied the St. Lake Simcoe Coalition in the last term to get the legislation changed so that it is prohibited from corporate accounts donations being made to municipal candidates. So indeed, it's not legal. Just for your information, I received offers from 3 different developers to facilitate my campaign, and I turned them down. And if they need, they always said, it's from my personal account, it's not corporate, but that doesn't matter because that's the spirit. So, as I said, I'm glad you're following up on that.
Sasha.
But I also don't think it's worth to take donations from these individuals because it's true and we expect it's true. But yeah, so I don't accept donations either.
Thank you. Jordan.
So unequivocally not. I'm self-funding my entire campaign. I don't know how many other people can say that. And quite frankly, no developer will want to give me any money because I'm going to account. I'm going to make sure that there's no back room around the corner deal and make sure that they improve King City instead of just build, take your money and leave. Thank you.
I've never taken a developer contributions in the past. Now,
See here, I'm not for that, never have, never will, ever accept anything from any developers in my hands because it just interferes with your running work and making your decisions. So I never
Thank you all.
Just as a comment, a helpful hint, if you go to the king.ca website, all of the previous filing papers for all of the previous elections candidates are available online. And as part of those documents that are submitted following each election, you can see exactly who has contributed to all of the candidates. Corporations and unions are not allowed anymore, but if you wanted to be able to see if in fact a developer was giving any one candidate a significant amount of money, you can kind of tell because you get the same name from different family members, and if you know the names, you can kind of put, A and B and C together. Now, I'm not pointing fingers at anyone, but if you want to be able to have some facts to be able to look at about the current council, you can actually find that information very easily and very quickly and cannot see it.
Yes, sir. My name is Burger. My concern is the moraine. About 3 years ago, my neighbor put about 15 to 20,000 tons of fill in the moraine area. It was fine. I called everybody, including town council. Nobody did anything about it. Right now, 18156 Dufferin Street, that's Northern Highway 9. There's about 20 to 30,000 tons of fill being brought in here. The neighbors complain, there's all the dust. The township doesn't do a thing. I called bylaws. They didn't even worry about a speaker there, you know. And I find the moraine is one thing, it's gone, okay? But all the fill comes in here, and I find it absolutely irresponsible that the council allows it, okay?
I know a bit about that one myself because I asked ADE. Really, do you want to respond to that, even though it's sort of a Ward 6? Are you aware of that fill, temporary fill?
Your ignorance is bliss.
Well, I see it too. When you drive up Dufferin and I want to cut across Miller Side Road to get to Newmarket, I saw this a massive amount of dust, and CCKT is very concerned with illegal fill dumping.
Well, nice mud right now this morning, you know.
In the fill industry. I contacted Councillor Eve, who got back to me in about 10 minutes because she already had a very detailed explanation. She gave another plan. It's apparently a temporary location.
Yes.
No, specifically for the old Miller landfill site.
That's it, you know. But the thing is, you know, I talked to the council in the township today, you know, and the bylaw officer said, come in my office, I show you the email that there's those people there. I said, come to that location, I show you the those people there, you know, and that was it.
Okay. You know what?
Yeah.
I don't want to distract everybody too much. I was pretty satisfied with the answer I had from ABE because it had full conservation and MOE sign off on it.
For both sides?
For that location. But I get the dust in the dirt. I don't want to distract you. It's really, you know, if you come tomorrow night to the one in the Lions Hall, you can ask ABE yourself.
By the way, right Field Street, you have more potholes than Ottawa, you know. Thank you.
Do you want to? Okay, go for it.
I just wanted to give you my card because I may not know about the issue, but you know, if you give me a phone call, I'd love to take a look just because it's not our ward. I'd still like to be concerned about it, so just come give this to you. Sorry.
Okay. Sorry, I'm not.
So I would just say that when I worked for the township from 2004 to 2006, one of the things that I oversaw was a full bylaw. We amended the bylaw to make it strict. The issue that we run into in the township is that we're the largest municipality geographically in the region of York, and we have a very small bylaw department, a very small budget, and unfortunately, we call them dirt bandits. They take advantage and they find ways to very illegal. When we find out, we have a very strict process to work in remediate. So in cases where people have filled in ponds and kept forests down, we have tried to reinstate the pond, replant trees, and individuals start to charge on that as taxes. So it's going to worry for anybody out there if you get just an offer for free fill, and that free fill is for $300,000 or $400,000, that $300,000 will land back on the issue of tax sale. So we are reactive. I've heard about how we want to increase our service level. We are dealing with a population of 25,000 people in the country, very small budget and resources to grow. This is why the township is really struggling with growth, because we don't have a population. That's a question that somebody else will ask. Do we want to grow that much? Because that will help stabilize the taxes.
Thanks, Lou.
Historically, people haven't wanted to grow.
Something, just before you get on your question, something I will point out is landfill and the fill industry is a major concern in CCKT. We've been looking at this for quite some time. We're also a member of an organization that's made up of a number of environmental groups called the Ontario Soil Regulation Task Force, OSRT. And if you look them up, they're more involved than we are at the central level, trying to get interest in passing laws that will make soil part of the planning process, so that you basically don't get a permit to develop your location until you actually are able to show what you're going to do with the bill that you're going to generate from it, rather than it being a problem with the recipient of fill, because there's so much investment coming in the city all the time. So I just wanted to let you know, at a local level, if you don't feel as though you're getting satisfaction from the township, give us a call. On top of that, if you're interested at a higher level of regulation and policy interest, that's an organization that will give you the be very helpful. Thank you. Very good question.
I'm Martha Richardson. I've been privileged to serve on the library board for the last 4 years. And Jordan, it's really a question for you. I was a little concerned you said you, as a councillor, would choose not to serve on any committees. And Cleve and Deb can maybe clarify for me that I think you kind of have to serve on some committees as part of your responsibilities as councillor. So as the library board, we value our relationship with the councillors because it means we get a chance to interact and build up council issues. So I was just wondering if you meant that or if you just wanted to clarify that issue.
I was a bit confused on the wording of the question. It was a bit vague. I meant as whatever jobs, whatever committees are mandatory to serve on, absolutely. I will still always be present to show up to whatever committee meetings are available and for having no problem. It's more simply that I do not want to be part of groups that seek to lobby this township in any which way. That's sort of what I was getting at, and that's what I got from the question. Once it's clarified, it makes a lot more sense, and I would be willing to look at stuff like that.
My understanding is that there are no council committees that the councillors are required to be on. It's a voluntary position, but it's normal custom that councillors want to participate in at least one or more of these, because that's really where a lot of policy and public engagement goes. Next question, sir. I did it again. I'm terribly sorry. I'm going to have to stand like this.
Just for the sake of education of the public here, we do have advisory committees that there must be at least one council representative on. And so, depending on how many there are, you might end up having, that's where the opportunities are. But there are committees that must have council representatives.
Your question, sir.
Hello, Keith Beckley from Warren Road. I'm okay with no growth and I'm okay with my taxes. So we pay for the community to live in. But anyway, my question is really this. So what has happened is we're going to huge growth in the south part of the township, Nobleton, King City. And I think what's going to happen is we're going to probably redistrict at some point. I'm curious, that's my question, is what is going to go on with the redistricting and the wards? Because it looks like the northern parts of the township are going to kind of get shut out over time in terms of having, and I live in the south, so it's to their detriment. But what is the process for that, and when would the wards be redistricted, given that the population should probably be similar for each ward? And anybody can answer that who knows.
How about, let's go for Cleve first. Try to shake it up a little.
Okay, so that's a great question. So I can tell you that since I've been on council, Ward 1 has been growing significantly, as anyone who lived in Ward 1 knows. And same with Ward 5, and to an extent Ward 2 in Knowlton. So just speaking for myself as a councillor, that when your constituency grows by 1,000 or more, that adds to the workload, and you have a multitude of issues. There are wards out there that have no hamlets, no villages, and all they have are roads and agricultural issues, whereas Ward 1 of Payne Township has urban growth, hamlet, agricultural, the broad spectrum of issues that are across the township exist in Ward 1, and it's only becoming more exacerbated. The process would be one of those painful processes, because we would be looking at realigning the boundaries, and current boundaries, the current wards would no longer exist, but we'd have to figure out a way to try and balance it such that, all the wards have an equal amount of work, because right now that's not the case. There's one of the wards that has maybe less than 1,000 people to represent, and I have 3,000 people in my ward. So it's an issue that you've raised.
Thank you. Mr. Payne.
I'd like to add to what Cleve has added. It's actually part of my platform is, again, if I'm fortunate enough to be elected, I'd like to start the conversation with the community, with council, to revisit our boundaries. Cleve had mentioned, Ward 1, Ward 5, Ward 2, respectively, has a greater population than the other wards. And I think it's a fairness, I think it's an equity issue, and also, as Cleve said, it's a workload issue for particular council. My proposal, again, before consultation, is we actually revisit the boundaries and consider we reduce the number of local councillors, perhaps have another regional councillor representative. As you know, we only have one, and that's our mayor. And I believe because a lot of regional issues have come up this evening, we have a lot of issues that are regionally focused, we should have additional regional representation. Thank you.
Is that everybody? Yeah, sorry, just one second. I'm going to have to, sorry about that. I am going to interject and ask one question that was written in. It's not to be unfair to people standing in line, but I received a question early from a person who is in the audience, but just didn't feel as though her voice would be strong enough to ask the question, and that is Jean Underhill, who's a previous councillor. I'm going to read the question. I'm going to give a bit of further information about it. It is a question for all candidates of wards 1 and 5, and here's what it is. Here's the question. Will you do your very best to keep King Township rural, including not expanding the York-Durham sewer system beyond the borders of King City for as long as you are on council? Now, I'll repeat that before you are able to answer, okay? But let me just give you a little bit of background. The environmental assessment done as part of the York Regional Official Plan to facilitate bringing the YDSS to King City, which was September 97, stated that it should only service properties within the bounds of the King City Official Plan. King, Vaughantown Line, Jane Street, 15 Side Road, and Dufferin being the boundaries, with the future possible exception of Seneca College and the Country Day School. So with that in mind, her question once again is, will you do your very best to keep King Township rural, including not expanding the York-Durham sewer system beyond the borders of King City for as long as you are on council? So in this way, why don't we start with Mr. Payne, and we'll go down the line. How's that?
Jane, yes.
Boy, we're ahead of schedule.
Yes, and not just for environmental reasons. It's also because the cost of sprawling beyond the boundaries of King City is a lot, because that means transit is going to be more expensive going beyond it. Servicing the pipes beyond it, we need to stay within the boundaries in order to be sustainable.
So I also do agree that we can make rural, and I think that we should maintain budget and also protect our environment. And depending on what people in the city want, I think we should go along with that and try to protect rural boundaries.
Thank you. Great.
So I agree with your comment. I don't think we should try to expand it for the cost. The infrastructure reason we can't, I'm up here telling everyone we can't even provide infrastructure for where we're at. So just on a cost basis, I think it's ridiculous to even think going past 15. So thank you very much.
So I can confirm that I would not support expansion beyond the King City community plan boundaries. There's plenty of room inside for intensification, which I know that's going to be a discussion going forward. Some people are not going to like it, but I think it presents a really cool future for King City. I see us as a sort of a rural outpost outside of the GTA that is transit connected with Metrolinx. You can get on a train, you go to Toronto in 45 minutes, be back at home and relaxing, in your backyard. I foresee a multitude, diversity of housing, so our seniors can have a place to downsize, and our young people can have a starter home. And this can all happen inside the King City boundary without going into the Oak Ridges Moraine. And I know that the province has said that they were the government that brought the Oak Ridges Moraine into place, and so I have confidence that it will stay that way.
Thank you.
Short answer is yes, I would support that all the way. I moved here because I wanted the rule. I wanted it to be what it is. I think it's going too much already, probably, but it's going, and I'm all for it. So I would support it. I work very hard to maintain it.
Thank you. Sorry for that delay. I wanted to make sure I got that in. Thank you. What is your question, ma'am?
My name is Anna Roberts, and I wanted to just make a comment that I am part of probably the best committee on Township, and that's the Accessibility Committee. So there is a lot of opportunity for people to get involved. Don't hesitate. It's a wonderful opportunity to really find out about King. I moved to King, and I love King. And I want to just ask a question for all the candidates and the incumbents as well. You know, we talk about affordable housing. We talk about how we want, our younger people to be able to afford a home in King. I love it. But what I haven't heard is, what about, I'm going to call, including myself, the more mature individuals What about housing for them? Because I know from speaking to people that I know, you know, they get to a level where they have to move out. So, and the homes here aren't accessible for our seniors. We don't have enough bungalows. We don't have enough areas where they would like to stay, where they lived all their life. So how would you respond to that?
I'm hearing your policy on affordable and alternative housing.
For seniors.
For seniors, so for all candidates. Let's shake it up this time. Let's just see how the hands go up, and we'll just make it around. Okay, Sock, please hand go up first, okay? And then we'll go Debbie and then everybody else. How's that?
Thank you for the question, Anna. So this is another part of the development issue that is somewhat market-driven. We have a seniors building within King City, but that is a government York Region facility. The Spring Hill building up at Burns, that's a private development. And so without any strict requirements for the government or for developers to build those kinds of things, they'll tend to build what they can make money doing. Unless you have a philanthropic type of developer that just wants to do the right thing and is not so concerned about making a ton of money, the likelihood is that they're going to build things that are market-driven. But King City has an aging population, and maybe the market is what will drive this. And the municipality can promote it by supporting it, by saying every time a development comes in, this is what we want to see. This is what our constituents are saying that we want. And we want to try and find ways to help you to make it happen. It has to be engagement by your council.
Thanks, Lee. I saw Debbie's hand and then Rob's, if that's okay.
I've lost it. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Seniors moment.
As Cleve said, the challenge with the regional seniors building, and I've heard it from many mature people, is that they're on the waiting list. And unfortunately, they're on the waiting list with every mature person in York Region. So unfortunately, we can't make a preference for those living in King Township. I absolutely agree. I think it's market driven. I think the demographics, the aging population. But again, I think, again, as councilors, as council, we should be encouraging developers to look at this type of housing because I think there is a need. And there's obviously a limited supply. And so as part of our official plan and as we're considering developments, absolutely we should take that into consideration.
Thank you. Debbie, you got the thought.
So what I would add to what's already been said is as we receive development applications for 3- and 4-story buildings, we are already starting to talk about and saying, well, what about elevators? We need to be thinking about that to make the concept of apartments or condominiums accessible and available to seniors. But I think, you know, the issue on the market-driven is really the very big thing, and we just need to keep talking to the community building it, saying there's a chance to do something different. I think we have to also be willing to change perhaps our ideas about height restrictions in King City. Right now, we talk about it's only 3 stories. I think maybe we need to be looking at 4 or 5 with good architecture, but that may be enough to make it attractive to a developer.
Thanks, Debbie. Jordan?
So just not to rehash everything, I believe it is market driven. We would have to look at trying to incentivize developers to do that, and to touch what Debbie was speaking of, maybe removing the height restriction and giving them a bit more density if they're willing to, you know, cooperate and follow more strict building codes that we would impose that may not be a provincial thing, which would help accessibility. But again, the market drives it, so the only way we can do that is by, you know, offering incentives to the developers with a bit more density. But again, it's something that's up for consultation, and, you know, there's something we have to look at in the future.
Being one of those mature people, almost there, you know, it's crossed my mind and my wife's mind. Obviously, we go through it, but you know, we need more affordable housing. We need, you know, I think developers need to do their part, and I think we need to do our part as a township, and sort of dedicating a percentage of the buildings that go up in the lands to a percentage of that to affordable housing that's accessible. And it could be stacked townhouses, it could be all kinds of things, but you know, there's an apartment building and there is a condo unit in King, but it's maintenance fees are through the roof, so, I mean, you've got those things that you're gonna face, but it's gotta be that when the developer buys the land, they should know what's accessible and what's not. And, you know, if you can get in there and you can say, look, you can build this, but with that, you're gonna have to do this as well, so we require those things. So it's dedicated percentage of the lands to that.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. Would anyone else like to answer? Okay, Sasha.
So I completely agree with Cleve and Debbie as well, and I think that is something that depends on conditions, but I also think we should look into it again and speak to developers and try to make it more appealing to them to create this sort of development. I also, just out of personal curiosity, is this only for housing or is it in commercial, like is it commercial as well?
Well, I mean, the senior population, it's never happened before, and we have a lot of seniors in King, and if they want to scale down, there's nowhere to go.
Okay, so yeah, and
they have to leave King.
Yeah, so in that case, I do think that we need to speak to more developers and council and people and try to get this to be more appealing, since most of King and population-wise is more mature.
Anyone else like to answer to that? Has everyone given their say? Okay. One thing I would like to say is I think we have about 10 more minutes left of questions. So I believe there's 3 individuals still in line. Am I correct, ma'am? Are you answering the question? Or is Hans, are you the last?
No, a colleague.
So we have 3 more. I was going to say, I would like to, and 1 more. Okay, so tell you what, that's it. Let's just try to keep, otherwise we are going to keep on going on. We're actually keeping very good time tonight. So if we could just keep it to the 4 that are there. If you happen to have a question you've not stood up for, or if you think of one, we're going to be here until about 9:30, so you'll have an opportunity to talk to the candidates one-on-one, so don't fret. And plus, hey, you know, they're there to be contacted during this election period, so don't be thinking you can't contact them after. So, sir, please come up, and let's have your question.
So my name is Lucas Molman. I'm from Ward 5, but I would like to address everyone that's a candidate tonight. My question is that I would like you to speak to and confirm that you will protect our interests if the Ontario government, under the Better Local Government Act, tries to dissolve King City into York Region and try and turn King Township into a replica of one.
Yeah, isn't that an interesting question? Let's keep on going down the line here. Why don't we start in the middle and go up? Why don't we start with Jordan, go up, and then we'll come down from Sasha. How's that?
Okay.
You first.
So certainly that's an interesting question. Again, as we saw Toronto, you know, they did put up a good fight, but unfortunately we are a creature of the province, and if they were to force it down, whichever means they see fit, there's little we can do, but I still will fight. I don't think anyone wants to turn into Maple, especially not Maple, but quite frankly, we will put up a fight, but that's reaching out to our MPP, so maybe you should speak to Stephen Lecce. He's a great, approachable guy. I know a lot of people here probably know him. So, you know, that would be best to direct your question to him, but quite frankly, I would fight, but again, you saw what happened in Toronto, so cautious optimism.
Thank you. Cleve, do you have a comment?
Sure. That's a question, Lucas. So, yes, this is a concern that I had the day that I watched the press conference when Premier Ford announced that he was going to slash the Toronto Council to 25 councils, basically in half. The other statement was to eliminate the elected chair and go back to the 2014 rules. What followed that was a statement, something to the effect of, while we kind of figure out regional governance. And that's the one that twigged in my head, because I thought, okay, what does that mean? And I started wondering if you know, I might be the last councillor for Ward 1, or if Mayor Pellegrini might be the last mayor of King Township. And it's deeply concerning to me, because I think we all feel very passionately about King Township. And so you can bet that I would be out there with you know, whatever pickets I have to stop that from happening. But the unfortunate thing is that, as we've seen, is that we are creatures of the province, and the province can make that kind of change without our input.
Thanks, Lee.
So I think we have to be on top of that issue.
Thank you. Kelly.
I would definitely fight it tooth and nail. I left Vaughan for that reason. It's a total disaster. Whoever designed that, I mean, those councillors in there, I mean, they've turned it into a big mess. You can't go anywhere. So I definitely would fight it big time.
Thank you. Let's start with Sasha, and then we're going to move forward.
So I completely agree. I would go against that issue till the end of times. And I personally like King City because it's rural and because it has a uniqueness to it, and that you can leave Toronto and come back to your own city, and it feels as if you're at a cottage, even though it's just simply your own city. And that's why I'm completely against that, because Vaughan's hectic, it's always busy, there's even more gridlock, and there's no beautification to it as well. So I'm completely against that. Yeah.
Great, thank you. David?
Well, certainly it's a very concerning concept to me, and I too would be out there trying to stop it. And I think one of the things that we'll have to very quickly do if this really starts is we really need to be pushing to understand the motivators, and which will help us to fight with some sort of logic and intellect. But on the emotional front, which is basically, I think, what a lot of us are talking right now, yes, I definitely would do what I can.
Yeah, I share your concerns, and I think that's why we should be proactive in revisiting our own boundaries, and that's why I'm supporting that we should have additional regional representation. I am optimistic, as was indicated earlier, given the change in government, the fact that our local MPP has set up his constituent office in King Township. I'm hoping that's indicative of a positive future for us.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, that's great. Mr. Locke, I know this is going to be a good question. You always ask a really good question.
I won't be able to answer. On the news every day, we hear about climate change and its impact on the world. This is not just a nation-to-nation problem to be solved in Paris or Ottawa or Washington. It's a responsibility for every level of governance, including us individuals and our own backyard. So I'm asking you, what are your views on the issue of climate change? And what do you think the council has as a responsibility for this issue and its solutions? Thank you.
With one little Is it good? You can talk half an hour on that. I know you try to. I don't know what to say to you. Try to keep it within a minute if possible. Okay. Why don't we start? Why don't we start with Mr. Payne and work back this way, and then we'll work from the other end from Mr. Kelly.
Yeah, I think we should act locally and think globally. I think there are small things that we can do, but obviously if we make our contributions as a municipality, the total sum is going to add up. And so one of the things I think that we're considering is a tree bylaw. And I think absolutely there's a workable tree bylaw is certainly something I would consider. And I think absolutely we have a part to play, and we should be leaders in the New York region, and as a municipality, I support us taking a leadership position.
Thank you. David.
Part of our role as the council is to be walking the talk. So, for example, at the new town hall, we have implemented geothermal. Because of cost budget, we weren't able to put in solar. But the concept of we need to be doing that with our own facilities, we need to be showing that there is a way to do these kinds of things. The Sustainability Advisory Committee needs to keep working to better inform and educate the citizens about ways that they can participate in doing things like that. And for sure, as we are doing our new subdivisions, we need to be looking at ensuring that we are minimizing the amount of impermeable pavement and things like that.
Thanks, Debbie. Sasha.
So I think that climate change is very important, and it occurs every single day. I think every drop counts, and I think that as a city we should work actively to protect our environment, including the greenbelt, moraine. I think that things like volunteering, encouraging people to come out to the city, planting trees more often, just getting together and getting to know more about our environment and the importance of protecting it is important to do in order to do our job as a city. I also agree with Debbie in the sense that we should be putting in more power-saving green sustainable energy in our city and houses as much as we possibly can.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to start at the other end with Kelly and then come back.
First, let me start off by saying I believe in climate change. Okay, that seems to be a topic of discussion. There's a lot of people that don't believe in it, so it is happening, and I've witnessed it in my life. I've seen it, so it is happening. To me, it's something that's important. We all have to work towards. We got to protect our green belts. We got to have some tree regulation in here because one of my neighbors cut down I didn't count them when I stopped counting. I walked around. A lot of large trees, which sort of impact us all. Got to get the greenhouse emissions down. There's a lot of things we have to do. You got to get new technologies in there, like solar panels and things like that. I'm not a fan of windmills, so those are things I'm not a fan of. But we got to get these things down that obviously we can take care of our properties as we go. So it's a very important issue, and I think it's just we're 11 years away from. So 9 years away. I mean, just reading the whole article on that huge impact's going to happen in the next 9 or 10 years. So I'm all in favor of doing this. So.
Thank you. Cleve.
Thank you. Yes, as Kelly said, I agree with it. Also, I can't claim to be an expert, but we only see what happens around us, and the weather events that have been occurring over the last 10 or 20 years have just. I think it's evident that our climate is changing. I would agree with what Debbie said, and try to share in our glory in what we've done. We've tried to lead by example in our new municipal building, of which I sat on that committee along with the resident that's in the room here. And we try to make very conscientious decisions with respect to geothermal. We have prepared the building for solar. We can add that afterwards. We put EV charging stations in the parking lot, and we've done other things where we put permeable parking and all those kinds of things. I personally, we try to do our own thing. My wife is very adamant on that. I live in a 7-year-old house that doesn't have central air conditioning, and I don't like that at all. If there's a way that I could harness the amount of sweat that I produce this year, more of my
Quite a move. Thank you. Okay, one more. Jordan.
So obviously I'd start off by saying I do believe in climate change. Unfortunately, it's mostly our generation's problem coming up. They always talk about studies, by 2050 so-and-so will happen. I look at my own age and I realize that my kids might not even be my age yet, and this impact is already catastrophic. That's why I've always pushed for making sure that we find sensible solutions. I believe a lot of the reasons why some green initiatives don't work is because we need to make sure it works coherently with the market. I'm not saying that they're going to be perfectly functional, but we do have to make an investment. That is why I'm so adamant about road infrastructure. I see the destruction that cars idling day after day after day has on our environment, and until we move to electric cars, that's still going to be a problem. So I appreciate the question. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have 2 more questions left, and then we're going to get the closing comments. Come on up, ma'am.
My question, is to Jordan. My name is Janet Miora, and I'm from the same ward as you're running for. I think I'm too short. There we go. The first item that you put on your little card here certainly hits home for me, and that's, let me read it, property tax reduction. How can I forget it? And I've lived here for 30 years with my family, and I've seen it go from single digit to double digit in increases. And so I'm very interested in understanding what specifically can you do to reduce our taxes, and B, I approached the council myself and the treasury, or whoever was in charge of doing that, I can't remember his title, and we found some errors in his thinking. So I'd like to know what you personally have done as an individual in this Ward 1, and how you specifically can reduce taxes. Thank you.
In 1 minute.
Well, obviously obviously the focus of this campaign is to help make King a bit more affordable, a bit better for everyone. To put it bluntly, as Rob Payne said in the other debate, 87% of our tax burden is bared on the household. And I believe with proper steps of bringing in employment into this area, it will start to release the burden off of the household. I think that is the only incremental few steps that we can take. Obviously, I can tell you that we're going to find efficiencies and so on and so forth. But again, that's just talk, that's political talk. I quite frankly don't know if that can happen. But what I do know is that, you know, we can work with companies like Magna and bring real jobs, not retail jobs that, you know, can't afford to live here, but real white-collar jobs are able to afford to live and contribute to King and make sure we alleviate some of the burden off of the household. And I think that's where we're going to see the biggest savings.
Okay, thank you. You would like to comment, Cleve? You would like to comment?
I'd just like to correct a statistic. I heard 87%. That would be ideal if we were 87%. In fact, we're more like 96 or 97%, if not higher. And what we need is to get our industrial rate up to about 15% in order to balance things. In terms of lowering taxes, what I've tried to put on my platform is to stabilize taxes by bringing in the magnas and by adding more assessment. But at the same time, we know that not everybody wants to add assessment to King Township or to King City. So really, you have to look at, a gentleman in the room said, you pay for where you live. Honestly, that is the answer in King Township. If you want to live in a township that has a lot more money to work with, like Vaughan, they have 350,000 people. It's a very different municipality than King. We are drawing from a tax base of 25,000 people. And so for the foreseeable future, we will not be able to lower taxes. Maybe we can stabilize them and maintain a service rate that we have right now, unless everybody decides they want to open things up and develop the you-know-what out of King Township. But even then, we can't because we're covered by the moraine. So it kind of is what it is.
Thanks, Cleve. One last question, then we go to closing comments.
I always have trouble with microphones.
No, that's a good mic. We can hear you. Don't worry.
Okay. My name is Judith Tenbaum, and I actually live in Ward 5 and am a resident of King City. My question is to Mr. Cescolini. Cescolini. I realize that there may be two Jordan Cescolinis, but it appears to me that you are the principal and the director of real estate in a company, C4 Corporation. And if I can quote from their website, that the C4 Corporation has concentrated on all facets of the Canadian real estate industry with a strong presence in commercial, industrial, and residential sectors within the GTA and throughout Ontario. Your knowledge in such a position could undoubtedly assist council with development issues, but if a conflict of interest should arise as a result of your status within the C4 Corp, how would you deal with it?
I guess that's for me.
Sure.
Yes, and that is a company that I do own in partnership with my 4 siblings, hence C4, Cescolini 4. I am very proud of that. But there is one thing, you can look at every land registry in King City. The only thing that is owned are homes here. We do not own a piece of land. We do not, as people say, actually that's a bad expression, but we do not do business where we live. Everything that we do is in Vaughan, Toronto, and so on and so forth. I am very proud of being so successful for my age, and I'll continue to bring that expert knowledge in every field, in the manufacturing field I work in the development field I work in, and I'm more than happy to assist council with any sort of problems they have, and I just think that's a bit of the experience I have that some of these people may not have on this council. I hope that answers your question.
No, it didn't answer my question. My question was, since your company is involved in real estate, commercial, industrial, and residential sectors of development, what would you do if elected councillor if you found that you were in a conflict of interest? Because I did notice that you have had dealings up on Davis, you've had dealings in other cities in the province, and so I think we could just construe that somehow down the road you may have a conflict of interest with your company as growth and development expand in our area. So how would you deal with your possible conflict of interest?
Well, any conflict of interest, you should obviously recuse yourself from any decision on council. That's first and foremost. But I don't know where the information on Davis is coming from. I have really no recollection of anything on that sort. Like I said, any land registry, any sort of check will assure you that I have done absolutely zero business in King City aside from living where I am here. So I appreciate it though. And I will gladly talk to you after to, double.
Well, I guess my concern was when you told all of us here what you did for a living, you left out the part about the development company. So I guess that's my concern. Thanks.
That wraps up our question segment. You're probably all either warm or having a tough time sitting down. We are going to have our closing statements. They're 90 seconds long each. We went from the far side to my side at the beginning. We're going to do it in the reverse order, starting with Mr. Payne. So closing comments, 90 seconds. So a little tighter than your introduction, but whenever you want to start.
First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for coming this evening, engaging in the process, being involved in local government. To me, it's the most important level of government. I certainly hope when you leave this evening that you talk to your friends, you talk to your neighbors, encourage them to engage, encourage them to vote. These are important issues. I think together we can make a difference. We will make a difference. On October 20th.
As I said in my opening remarks, I think I have contributed a lot of value to the ward and to the township overall. And I hope you have learned more about me tonight, which would lead for you to be thinking that that is the person I want to have at the council table. As Mr. Payne has said, it is extremely important that you vote. Obviously, I hope you would come to the conclusion that in Ward 5, I'm the person that you want to have. I continue to maintain my blog because I believe very strongly in citizen engagement. And that is something that I put a lot of priority for in what I do. So with that, I will say that I am grateful that you all came this evening and that have spent this time. And I hope you will, as Mr. Payne has said, do talk to your friends and neighbors and make sure that everybody votes. But it really is now up to you to decide who is going to be at the council table for the next term. Thank you.
I just wanted to thank the concerned citizen of King Township for creating this event so that you can all attend. I want to thank everyone who came out today and took time out of their day to attend this and ask us questions. I also want to remind you guys that my name is Sasha Mozaffari and I have a website, mozaffari.ca. If you guys have any questions or concerns, please reach out to me. I'd love to hear about them. I'd love to include them in what I want to change about King City and maintain as well. And yeah, thank you.
First off, I'd like to thank everyone in the attendance, all the great questions that we had. To my council candidates here, to the council candidates in Ward 5, I wish everyone the best of luck. I just want to remind everyone that we do have a choice this election. I do understand that it is difficult, but I do promise to always be straightforward, tough, and make the right decisions for the future generations coming forward. Thank you very much.
I'd like to say that this is where I've grown up, and I love this town. It's kind of irrational sometimes, the love that you have for your town, but I think part of it was inspired by my father, who was a volunteer back in the 70s and was involved in creating the King City Soccer Association. He was the first vice president of the King City Soccer Association. I'm very proud of that, and I think that his community work kind of rubbed off on me. I've been volunteering since I was in my 20s. And I think that's what drives me to be a councillor for Payne. But I think what I bring is not only the 12 years of experience in this job, I know it like the back of my hand, and I also bring 30 plus years of civil engineering and land use planning, which I think is really one of the most relevant issues that we're dealing with in this township. And I use it with a love of Payne and a defense of Payne, and I know how to push back on these guys. I know when to let go, so that we can get the best possible developments and grow our community. So it's unlike any other community in the GTA. For that reason, I'm seeking your support to be your counselor again for another 4 years.
Thank you. I want to thank CCKT and Greg and Bruce and everyone here and all of you for this evening. Thank you very much for the questions and I guess giving us the time to speak to you. I've managed a large company in my past. I've retired. I have time, the determination, the sincerity, the honesty. I have, the care, the love for the city that I moved into, that I made my home forever and ever. I've been here for 5 years, and it's just something that I care passionately about. That's why I decided to run on this platform for this position. So on October 22nd, let me be your voice. Thank you.
Thank you. Bruce is going to give you some closing comments, but I'm going to give you just a brief closing comment. I'm going to steal just a little bit of Bruce's thunder. And if you've attended these before, and I see a lot of familiar faces, you're going to know about the envelope speech that I give you. But remember when you sat down, there's an envelope. I want to tell you a little bit about CCKT. We've been around almost 50 years. I don't know what we're going to do for our 50th year, but with Jill's help, I'm sure we're going to do something special. But we don't get any support from anybody but you. We don't get Trillium grants. We don't get government funding. We don't get nothing. We completely rely on our membership and on people like you. It sounds like a PBS pitch, and it probably is a lot like one. Wanted to just let you know, for $20 a year, you can become a member. For $30 a year, you can become a family member, and I think we've had that rate since 1980, haven't we, Joe? It's never really gone up. So we're getting killed by inflation, but we really want to get you on board here. And also, if you value what you experienced tonight, and if you value our CCKT website, if you value the fact that we've got more that you can read about these candidates and other candidates on, we, for the first time, did a 17-page questionnaire that most candidates answered and that we've posted online, and you can see it by ward. If you like the fact there's going to be another one tomorrow night for the other wards, and if you like the fact that we do quarterly meetings where we have guest speakers that have interesting topics, and that we advocate for you on behalf of council and regional council where necessary, the provincial government, and we're also members of other environmental groups like Environmental Defense and the Ontario Soil Regulation Task Force. We fight issues for you. I think that's worth $20. So I just want to ask you to think about that when you're picking up that envelope, and you can leave it with Jill at the door. We very much appreciate it. And also, there are membership forms there too that are easy to fill out. So please consider that. And thank you very much, and it's been a pleasure. I've really enjoyed this experience. This has been my first time moderating. And thank you, candidates. I think you're all doing a great job. Thank you. There you go.
Wow, okay, here we are, quite an evening, and I'm sure we're all ready for a good stretch. First of all, thank you, Greg, for I've never actually been a moderator, and I'm just glad that I could do opening comments and closing ones, and you got shoulder a whole bunch of the rest of it, which is great, and you did a commendable job. Let's see, a couple of things. The other thing I want to thank Greg for, and it's a little bit of an appeal, concerned citizens. It's a great opportunity when we have the public here to say, we're at a place where we really need to refresh. We really need some young, new ideas, and I think there's a real openness to that. If some of you, even more mature, would like to be to join in and contribute to the discussion and just some of the priorities that we work on, we would really welcome that. And there is a need at this point. Anyway, see Jill at the back would be great. Anyway, on behalf of CCKT, thank you for coming out, supporting this election process, a wonderful privilege we have in Canada. Thank you, candidates, for coming, for really standing, putting your name out there to do this takes a lot of courage. So I just to give them a hand. I was going to say, in my 25 years in King, this is one of the most engaging group of candidates that I have met. Actually, a lot of door-to-door work, a lot of reaching out, a lot of that kind of thing. So just all the best as we venture forward. Wanted to say advanced polls are open on October 18th in Nobleton. 13th, sorry. From 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. That's this Saturday at the Dr. William Laceby Community Center. It's the Nobleton Arena. Also, next week, from the 15th to the 19th, at the Township offices, from 9 a.m. right through to 8 p.m. The current Township offices, that's right. We look forward to the new ones. Right? And then on the 20th, that's the following Saturday, it'll be at the King City Community Center on Doctors Lane from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and then Election Day, October 22nd. It would be great to see King have the highest percentage of voters turn out for the municipal election. Let's all help make that work. I want to say thanks to Villanova, again for the just wonderful welcome that they provide. They actually set this all up for us, and it is such a great help. So just want to express that appreciation. Also, does somebody have the time, just so I'm aware? I don't have my watch on. 5 after 9. We have about 15, maybe 20 minutes for some conversations, and we'd like to have the lights out by 9:30, okay? So please engage with some of the school trustees and the candidates who are here, okay? Thank you.